Hello, my name is Callista, and welcome back to Dragon Age Origins. In the last episode, we finished off the Dwarf Commoner origin, and I said I'd be picking up next with the Human Noble. So, everyone say hello to Marnie Cousland. I absolutely love how she looks. And yes, I am going to say that about every single one of my wardens, so you'd better get used to it. Marnie is actually one of my newer wardens. I've only been playing her for about 2 years, compared to Arten, who I've been playing for about 6 or 7 now. With Marnie, my inspiration for her appearance, I wanted to create someone who was conventionally very attractive, but there was also something a little bit off about her appearance. And I think I achieved that. I think that visually she is stunning, but when I look around her eyes, I don't know, I see something a little bit dark there. I don't really like how she looks at me through the screen. Maybe I'm reading a bit too much into my own work, but I can see it, you know. Now, Marnie does have a backstory because all of my wardens have backstories. If you aren't interested in hearing it, a timestamp should be popping up in this bottom corner right here telling you when to skip ahead to. She's also 21 years old at the start of the game. I always forget about that. Okay, here's her backstory. Marnie was born in Castle Cousland in Highever, and she has always had a silver spoon in her mouth. A beautiful baby, her parents were besotted with her the moment they saw her. And her older brother Fergus had always wanted a little sister. Someone who he could protect, who would look up to him. Marnie grew into a precocious little girl. With golden blonde hair and big green eyes, she seemed to charm most people she met. However, Bryce and Eleanor did notice that there was something off about their youngest. She watched others with a fierce intensity, and her smile, while very sweet, never quite seemed to meet her eyes. At first, her parents dismissed their concerns. They were probably just overthinking things. But not long after Marnie turned 6, Bryce overheard a couple of the stable boys talking about his daughter. They said that she was cruel and that the last time they had played with her, that she had hurt one of them on purpose. As soon as the pair realised that Bryce was listening, they stopped talking. But with some gentle encouragement, they told him that what they were saying was true. When her parents confronted her, Marnie claimed innocence. She said that she had played a game with the boys and that one of them had accidentally got hurt and blamed her for it. Bryce and Eleanor asked around the staff to see if they could provide any insight. A few of the servants confirmed that they had seen Marnie playing with the lowborn children, and not once had they seen any troubling behaviour on Marnie's part. So her parents believed her story, and the 2 stable boys were dismissed. After Marnie turned 10, she began taking archery lessons. Bryce thought it was extremely important that his daughter should know how to defend herself. But Eleanor wasn't so enthusiastic about these lessons. Every so often, some new rumour would start floating around the castle. Marnie was always more of a daddy's girl, so Bryce tended to just brush them aside as cruel gossip. But Eleanor was far more discerning. There's no smoke without fire, after all. And, to be honest, she didn't think that Marnie would stick with the training beyond a couple of months. Though, much to Eleanor's surprise, Marnie really took to archery. She threw herself into her lessons, and most of her free time was spent practicing. Marnie became more focused, more patient. And the rumours all stopped, so Eleanor was appeased. Unbeknownst to her parents, the kitchen went through a quick succession of cats, as all of their mouses just seemed to disappear. When Marnie was 13, the Huntmasters Mabari gave birth, and Marnie was promised one of the pups. Bryce took her to see them when they were a few weeks old. 6 wriggling puppies. But Marnie was very concerned with why one of the puppies was so much smaller than the others. Bryce explained that while the runt was small now, with enough of its mother's milk, it could still grow up to be big and strong. Marnie was noticeably upset with this explanation, but Bryce put it to the back of his mind. However, a couple of days later, the huntmaster approached Bryce with some extremely distressing news. He had checked on the pups that morning and found the runt in a trough full of water. The sides of the trough were too high for the puppy to have climbed in on its own. Someone had put the runt in that trough and allowed it to drown. Bryce's blood ran cold. He told Eleanor of his worries, and together they confronted their daughter. Shockingly, Marnie admitted to drowning the puppy. She couldn't see that she had done anything wrong. In her mind, the runt was making her puppy weaker by drinking milk that could have made a strong puppy stronger instead of making a weak puppy average. Her parents were horrified. All of those rumours and warning signs that they'd missed. They knew they had to do something, but what? They loved her. The idea of sending her away to some institution broke their hearts. So instead, they decided that Marnie must be kept inside the castle. They told no one about their daughter's issues, not even Fergus, and tried their best to pretend that everything was normal. And for many years, everything was. Their children grew up, Fergus got married and had a child of his own, and there were no more incidents, although Bryce and Eleanor doubted it was because Marnie was suddenly better. More likely that she realised that she was being watched. She might be a monster, but she was their monster. And that was really all that mattered. Marnie's current objective is to get out of High Ever. She has been stuck in Castle Cousland for 8 years, and she is determined to get to Denerim and make her mark on Ferelden. For better or worse. There we go, that is Marnie's backstory. Yeah, she's not a nice person at all. I noticed that about Let's Plays of the Human Noble. They tend to be very heroic and, oh, my family was unjustly slaughtered. I'm going to join the Grey Wardens and prove myself. And I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I want to have a psychopath for a Cousland. That sounds like fun. Okie doke. What do I want to do? I think that works. And coercion, absolutely. Lockpicking. And I mentioned she is an archer. So I'm thinking pinning shot. We will be playing on normal. Let's get going. If the game decides to load, of course. You doing all right? Game?
For generations, your family, the Couslands, has stewarded the lands of High Ever, earning the loyalty of your people with justice and temperance. When your country was occupied by the Orlesian Empire, your father and grandfather served the embattled kings of your land. Today, your elder brother takes up House Cousland's banner in service to the crown, not against the men of Orlais, but against the bestial Darkspawn rising in the south.
I trust then that your troops will be here shortly.
I expect they will start arriving tonight, and we can march tomorrow. I apologize for the delay, my lord. This is entirely my fault.
No. The appearance of the Darkspawn in the south has us all scrambling, doesn't it? I only received the call from the king a few days ago myself. I'll send my eldest off with my men. You and I will ride tomorrow just like the old days.
True. Though we both had less grey in our hair then, and we fought Orlesians, not monsters.
At least the smell will be the same. I'm sorry, Pop, I didn't see you there. How, you remember my daughter?
I see she's become a lovely young woman. Pleased to see you again, my dear.
Oh, Alhow, it is a pleasure to see you too. Okay, what do we have here? Was I brought here for a reason? And you, Alhow, is your family here, Alhow? So you're not leaving until tomorrow. Okay. So this man is an Arl under us. Because he is of a lesser position, Marnie... How do I want to put this? She thinks Alhow is beneath her. He is lower in the ranks of nobility, he is beneath her, but at the same time, he is one of her father's Arls. And you do need to keep the Arls sweet, otherwise they could rebel and suddenly your family is overthrown, and Marnie doesn't want that. So she's going to be polite, however she isn't really interested in what he's saying. Oh wow, for once I don't have to do an American accent, hooray! Oh, now here's the problem. Because I'm using my own accent, or a version of my own accent, I get the feeling that I'm gonna be slightly more likely to forget, so I think I might just have to continually talk in Marnie's accent, if that makes any sense, because with Arten and Nefri, an American accent is so different from my own, I had to make a conscious, like, okay, get into the American accent, but oh dear, this is gonna be a bit weird. Let me find Marnie's voice. She speaks very properly. Almost like Mary Poppins, almost. And you, All How?
My son Thomas asked after you. Perhaps I should bring him with me next time.
To what end? I'd like that. Thomas is a few years younger than I am. I've no interest in an arranged marriage. As I said, this man is beneath her. Like hell she would ever marry his son. To what end?
Ha! To what end, she says. So glib, too. She's just like her mother when she talks like that.
See what I contend with, Hal? There is no telling my fierce girl anything these days. Make her bless her heart.
Quite talented, I'm sure. One to watch.
At any rate, Pop, I summoned you for a reason. While your brother and I are both away, I'm leaving you in charge of the castle.
Are you certain? What's involved with such a task? I'll do my best, Father. What? Why can't I go into battle with you and Fergus? Is that really necessary? Marnie is delighted that Castle Cousland is being left under her control. Mainly because that means she can leave as soon as she can. As soon as her parents aren't looking, she is out of here. I'll do my best, Father.
Now, that's what I'd like to hear. Only a token force is remaining here, and you must keep peace in the region. You know what they say about mice when the cat is away, yes? There's also someone you must meet. Please, show Duncan in.
It is an honor to be a guest within your hall, Tyrn Cousland.
Your lordship, you didn't mention that a Grey Warden would be present.
Duncan arrived just recently, unannounced. Is there a problem?
Of course not. But a guest of this stature demands certain protocol. I am at a disadvantage.
We rarely have the pleasure of seeing one in person, that's true. Pup, Brother Aldous taught you who the Grey Wardens are, I hope.
They're an order of great warriors. They defeated the Darkspawn long ago. He said they were a small order and no longer important. Is there a reason I should care? I don't think Marnie would be so crass as to say number 4, but she certainly views the Grey Wardens as unimportant. He said they were a small order and no longer important.
I apologize, Duncan. That Aldous has nerve teaching my children such slanderous nonsense.
I take no offense. The Grey Wardens are not what we once were.
I'll not have the Wardens spoken ill of in my household. Without them, the Darkspawn would have killed us all in the first blight. You are the only reason men still live in Thedas. Duncan is looking for recruits before joining us and his fellow Wardens in the south. I believe he's got his eye on Sir Gilmore.
If I might be so bold, I would suggest that your daughter is also an excellent candidate.
Honor though that might be, this is my daughter we're talking about.
I think I rather like the idea, Father. Is there no reason I shouldn't join them? I've no interest in becoming a Grey Warden. Absolutely not. Like hell she is going to become a Grey Warden willingly. She's a noble. She is destined for a life of greatness. That is what Marnie truly believes. And that does not involve heading into the deep roads and slaying smelly old Darkspawn. No thank you. I've no interest in becoming a Grey Warden.
Do you hear that, Duncan? My daughter is not interested. So unless you intend to invoke the right of conscription...
Have no fear. While we need as many good recruits as we can find, I've no intention of forcing the issue.
Pup, Can you ensure that Duncan's requests are seen to while I'm gone?
Of course. Don't strain my abilities or anything. Oh, my accent's gone. I doubt I have to be here for that, do I? Again, we should be polite. Of course.
In the meantime, find Fergus, and tell him to lead the troops to Ostagar ahead of me.
Where is Fergus? Are you trying to get rid of me? But I'd like to stay here and talk to Duncan. But I'm not done talking to you yet. Not 3 or 4. And Fergus is probably saying goodbye to his wife, so he'll be in their rooms. Are you trying to get rid of me?
We must discuss the battle plans in the south. Be a good lass and do as I've asked. We'll talk soon.
Yes, father, of course. Now that we're out of conversation, I think I can swap back to my actual voice. There we go. Let's see, we have codex entries. Come on. Also, Marnie, why do you have 2 daggers? You can't use those. I'm guessing that she's misplaced her bow. Maybe she's like sent it in for repairs or something like that. Let's see, you. And the lucky stone. There we go. And this one. Lovely. And more coercion. Always more coercion. However, Castle Highever has stood since the Divine Age, when it was not an independent Bannorn, but merely an outpost of the growing Bannorn of Amaranthine, in the days before Amaranthine became an Arling itself. The outpost of Highever was originally held by the Elston family, cousins of the Howes. In the Age of Towers, however, Ban Conobar Elston was murdered by his wife, Flemeth, thus ending the bloodline. Conobar's captain of the guard, Marnie Cousland, took the lands and title. The Couslands declared their independence from Amaranthine, starting a war that lasted 30 years. When the dust settled, Highever was on its own, and in possession of half of the land that had once been southwestern Amaranthine. Highever became a Tyrnir during the Black Age, when Haelia Cousland gathered the lords together under her banner to drive the werewolves out of their lands, earning herself the title of Tyrnir almost as an afterthought. Today, Highever is one of the only 2 remaining Tyrnirs, making the Cousland family second in rank only to the king. From Ferelden Folklore and History by Sister Patrine, Chantry Scholar. This right here, this fact right here is the bane of Marnie's existence. And that might sound odd, but let me explain. So, to quote one of the other codex entries, I believe it's actually in the chapel here, when talking about the Maker, in your heart shall burn an unquenchable flame. There is a flame that burns in Marnie's heart. It is the need to rise, to elevate her position in society. Marnie is kind of a twisted version of Artin. Artin was at the top of society. She could not gain any more honor or glory because she was already at the top. So she kind of let that go. She was like, I don't need any more honor and glory. To pursue so would just drive me to madness, because how can I become any higher than a princess? Marnie is that feeling, but she didn't let that go. She is, as it says here, second in rank only to the king. And the king is already married, so what's she gonna do? If she had been born into a peasant family, she could have elevated herself relatively easily. She could have married a wealthy merchant. She could have become a lady's maid or learned how to read and write and gotten quite a prestigious job, something like that. She could have elevated herself extraordinarily easily. But in her current position, she feels like she's stagnating. She can't rise. And I'm not going to necessarily say that's what makes her an awful person. I think she's just a little bit psychopathic. That's the best way I could describe her. Also, considering that in her backstory she drowns a puppy, her father calling her pup as a nickname takes on a whole new meaning. Like, it's both an affectionate nickname and also a reminder to Bryce of this is what she's capable of. That's what she can do to an innocent little dog. And I need to remind myself of that. Duncan, we already read this one in the Dwarf Commoner origin, and there haven't been any changes, so I'm gonna skip that. I'll rend and how. It will be good to ride into battle once more, won't it, old friend? The Arling of Amaranthine winds along the sinuous northeastern coast of Ferelden. The waking sea is known for its temper, and the storms that sweep in from the warmer northern waters are sudden and brutal. These are the lands of Rend and How. He was born during the occupation, and like many of the nobles at the time, joined Prince Maric's rebels. He fought alongside young Bryce Cousland, future Tern of Highever, and Leonis Bryland, future Arl of Southreach, at the bloody Battle of White River. It was the most catastrophic defeat of the entire occupation, from which only 50 rebel soldiers escaped alive. Although he was decorated for valour by King Maric, How's abrasive manners have earned him almost universal dislike amongst his peers. I mentioned this during my actual Dragon Age Origins Let's Play. I think that maybe this explains a lot of How's personality. He was in this awful battle. He was one of the few people to survive, so he probably has PTSD that's gone untreated, survivor's guilt, and then he sees Leonis and Bryce getting ahead in life, as How perceives it. And he thinks to himself, this isn't fair. This isn't fair at all. The universe almost is conspiring to keep me down while they succeed at life. I can't believe this. I survived in that awful battle. I went through hell and back, and yet I'm not being rewarded. And I think maybe that's why he does what he does, maybe. He could just be a complete arsehole for all I know. Speaking of How, I do think that Marnie wants to talk with How. From what she heard of the beginning of the conversation, there seemed to have been something going on with his troops.
Yes?
Let me get back into the accent. There we go. Nothing. Sorry to bother you. How long have you and father been friends? Your son is interested in me. I trust the delay with your men is nothing serious. I just want to wish you well, Arl How. I think, as I mentioned, Marnie is going to be polite to this man because he is one of her father's Arls, and by extension, her Arl. And you need to keep these people sweet, even if you don't really care about what's going on with their lives. How long have you and father been friends?
We fought together under King Maric when he drove the Orlesians out of Ferelden. Heady times. The years since have not held the same promise. It's not something a youth would understand. It will be good to ride beside your father again.
I think that's also another very interesting point. When he was a young man, the world was ahead of him. He had everything to gain, nothing to lose, all of that. And in the years since, he's become disillusioned. The world did not have much to offer him, but it seemed to offer up his friends much, and he became jealous. You knew King Maric? Here's the thing, Marnie would surely know that. Her father would absolutely have spoken of Maric. Perhaps she only thought that Bryce had met King Maric because, after all, her father is a Tern. And he's only an Arl. He is so much little and lower than her family. And yes, thinking this way makes my skin crawl, but this is the way that Marnie thinks. You knew King Maric?
Your father hasn't spoken of our time with him? That man took care of his friends. As they say, he was large as life, and twice as tall. It's too bad Kaelin isn't half that.
You don't think much of King Kaelin? Ooh. I imagine that Marnie would ask that, because that is of interest to her. If she's being very, very blunt, Marnie doesn't think much of Kaelin either. Everything she's heard about him, because bearing in mind that Honora and Eleanor, Marnie's mother, are very good friends, I imagine that Marnie has heard all about how Kaelin will sleep with anything with a pulse in the castle, any lady with a pulse. And she does look down on him. For that, she kind of views him as lesser for having such weakness, for having such weak will. She is planning on using that to her advantage. Her big plan is to go down to Denerim, seduce Kaelin, produce a son, if either with Kaelin or someone who looks like Kaelin. She then claims the son is his, and because Honora hasn't produced an heir yet, Kaelin will hopefully divorce her, marry Marnie, and then Marnie is on the throne. That is her big plan. She'd then ship the child off to some nanny or nursemaid. She really doesn't care about that. She just wants the throne. That is the only way she can see to elevate herself. You don't think much of King Kaelin?
I think of him as much as he thinks at all.
That's enough, Hal. You speak of our king.
The girl did ask, your lordship. As per the latitude you allow. I merely offered my opinion.
I think Marnie is inclined to agree with that assessment of Kaelin. Your son is interested in me. Marnie isn't going to ask that. She's not going to dignify that idea with a response. I trust the delay with your men is nothing serious.
Poor weather, I believe. Their progress has been slow, but it's nothing you need worry about.
You told my father the delay was your fault.
In a manner of speaking. If I had reinforced our border levies earlier, my troops could have left before the rains. I confess, my confidence in your father allowed me some complacency. I guess that makes it as much his fault.
Very interesting. I just want to wish you well, Hal.
I thank you. That is quite unnecessary.
As I said, Marnie doesn't mean a word of that, but it is nice to be polite to the little people. Father's asked us to do something, so we won't be talking to him, and Marnie has no interest in speaking to Duncan. He's just a lowly little grey warden after all. Why bother? He surely can't have anything interesting to say. Let's start down here, I think. And we have the chapel. Lovely. I imagine that Marnie spends a fair amount of time here. Why am I still using that voice? I'm out of dialogue. I can talk normally. I keep forgetting about that. Marnie is devoutly Andrastian, so I think she's rather zealous in her beliefs, so she probably spends a lot of time here. Andraste, Bride of the Maker. There was once a tiny fishing village on the waking sea that was set upon by the Tevinter Imperium, which enslaved the villagers to be sold in the markets of Minrathous, leaving behind only the old and the infirm. One of the captives was the child Andraste. She was raised in slavery in a foreign land. She escaped, then made the long and treacherous journey back to her homeland alone. She rose from nothing to be the wife of an Alamari warlord. Each day she sang to the gods, asking them to help her people who remained slaves in Tevinter. The false gods of the mountains and the winds did not answer her, but the true God did. The Maker spoke. He showed her all the works of his hands, the Fade, the world, and all the creatures therein. He showed her how men had forgotten him, lavishing devotion upon mute idols and demons, and how he had left them to their fate. But her voice had reached him, and so captivated him that he offered her a place at his side that she might rule all of creation. but Andraste would not forsake her people. Marnie wonders why on earth not. Fuck those people, go become a god. But then she realizes, how blasphemous that line of thinking is, and she mentally goes, oh, I shouldn't have thought that, damn it. She begged the Maker to return, to save his children from the cruelty of the Imperium. Reluctantly, the Maker agreed to give man another chance. Andraste went back to her husband, Mafarath, and told him all that the Maker had revealed to her. Together, they rallied the Alamari and marched forth against the mage lords of the Imperium, and the Maker was with them. The Maker's sword was creation itself, fire and flood, famine and earthquake. Everywhere they went, Andraste sang to the people of the Maker, and they heard her. The ranks of Andraste's followers grew until they were a vast tide washing over the Imperium. And when Mafarath saw that the people loved Andraste and not him, a worm grew within his heart, gnawing upon it. At last, the armies of Andraste and Mafarath stood before the very gates of Minrathous, but Andraste was not with them. For Mafarath had schemed in secret to hand Andraste over to the Tevinter. For this, the Archon would give Mafarath all the lands to the south of the Waking Sea. And so, before all the armies of the Alamari and of Tevinter, Andraste was tied to a stake and burned while her earthly husband turned his armies aside and did nothing, for his heart had been devoured. But as he watched the pyre, the Archon softened. He took pity on Andraste and drew his sword and granted her the mercy of a quick death. The Maker wept for his beloved, cursed Mafarath and cursed mankind for their betrayal, and turned once again from creation, taking only Andraste with him. And Our Lady sits still at his side, where she still urges him to take pity on his children. From the sermons of Justinia II. Now then, Malol, do you have anything to say to us?
Maker, prepare a place for us. Redeem our world from sin. Forgive our transgressions.
Maker, forgive us all.
Have you come to pray for your brother and father? I'd be happy to ask for the Maker's blessings with you.
Once again, find the voice, Mary Poppins. There we go. I think I've got it. There we go. I would appreciate that, Mother Malol. Perhaps later, if it will make you feel better. I don't see the point. As I mentioned before, Marnie is zealously Andrastian. I think she would pray for her brother and father. How do I put this? Them being alive is much more convenient to her than them being dead. And that's the reason why she would pray for them. If her father died with little, is he called Oren? I forget. Marnie, you should know your nephew's name. You absolutely should. I think it's Oren. It's Oren, Osen, something like that. But she's no longer second in line to get the Tyrnir. So if her father and brother die, Oren takes the Tyrnir, and Marnie wouldn't be against killing her nephew. It would just look incredibly suspicious. She'd be thrown in prison in an instant. Marnie has no intention of going to prison, so she will pray for their safety. I would appreciate that, Mother Malol.
Please, child, call me Malol. I've known you since you were a wee babe after all. Creator of the sky, the land, and the sea. Hear your people in our time of need.
Make a watch over us, or say nothing. No, we will join in. Make a watch over us.
Let no man have cause to fear the shadows. Let their souls be lifted upon your return. So let it be.
Maker, forgive us all.
There now. I'll be keeping a vigil tonight. You're welcome to come. There are many more who must receive the Maker's blessings before they leave. If you would excuse me.
I should go anyway. Thank you, Malol. could you answer a few questions? No, if the Chantry priest says that she is busy, then Marnie is perfectly willing to respect that. Thank you, Malone.
It is the least I could do. If the worst comes to pass, child, take comfort in knowing that the Maker's will takes many forms. We shall talk once the soldiers have departed.
Yeah, if Fergus and Father die, then the Maker's will is apparently killing a child. That's Marnie's thought process. The thing that stops her from doing that is that she'd have to wait a while, and in that time, Oren could get very, very strong. So by the time it gets for her to where she's in a position where it's like, I could get away with killing this kid. He could have bodyguards, he could be a master swordsman, something like that, and that worries her. It would be much easier to kill him while he's small, but also way more suspicious. So that's why she's kind of staying her hand so far. The Maker. There was no word, for heaven or for earth, for sea or sky. All that existed was silence. Then the voice of the Maker rang out, the first word, and his word became all that might be, dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities. And from it he made his firstborn. And he said to them, in my image I forge you. To you I give dominion over all that exists. By your will may all things be done. Then in the centre of heaven he called forth a city with towers of gold, streets with music for cobblestones, and banners which flew without wind. There he dwelled, waiting to see the wonders his children would create. The children of the Maker gathered before his golden throne and sing hymns of praise unending. But their songs were the songs of the cobblestones. They shone with the golden light reflected from the Maker's throne. They held forth the banners that flew on their own. And the voice of the Maker shook the fade, saying, in my image I have wrought my firstborn. You have been given dominion over all that exists. By your will all things are done. Yet you do nothing. The realm I have given you is formless, ever-changing. And he knew he had wrought amiss. So the Maker turned from his firstborn, and took from the fade a measure of its living flesh, and placed it apart from the spirits, and spoke to it, saying, here I decree opposition in all things, for earth, sky, for winter, summer, for darkness, light. By my will alone is balance sundered, and the world given new life. And no longer was it formless, ever-changing, but held fast, immutable. With words for heaven and for earth, sea and sky, at last... Oh, there goes my timer. Whoops, let me just finish these couple of codex entries here. And no longer was it formless, ever-changing, but held fast, immutable, with words for heaven and for earth, sea and sky. At last did the Maker from the living world make men, immutable as the substance of the earth, with souls made of dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities. Then the Maker said, to you, my second-born, I grant this gift. In your heart shall burn an unquenchable flame, all-consuming and never satisfied. From the fade I crafted you, and to the fade you shall return each night in dreams, that you may always remember me. And then the Maker sealed the gates of the golden city, and there he dwelled, waiting to see the wonders his children would create. Threnodies 5:1-8. The commandments of the Maker. These truths the Maker has revealed to me. As there is but one world, one life, one death, there is but one God, and he is our Maker. They are sinners who have given their love to false gods. Magic exists to serve man, and never to rule over him. Foul and corrupt are they who have taken his gift, and turned it against his children. They shall be named Maleficar, accursed ones. They shall find no rest in this world or beyond. All men are the work of our Maker's hands, from the lowest slaves to the highest kings. Those who bring harm without provocation to the least of his children are hated and accursed by the Maker. Those who bear false witness and work to deceive others know this. There is but one truth. All things are known to our Maker, and he shall judge their lies. All things in this world are finite. What one man gains, another has lost. Those who steal from their brothers and sisters do harm to their livelihood and to their peace of mind. Our Maker sees this with a heavy heart. Transfigurations 1:1-5. So, this right here, I mentioned Marnie is zealously religious, yet she would also be willing to murder a child. Don't those conflict? In Marnie's mind, she's thinking of this. What one man gains, another has lost. She lost being second in line because Oren had the audacity to be born. So she's going to take her property back. And if that means he dies, well, tough shit. Marnie is, I think all characters in some ways are hypocrites to some extent. Everyone's a hypocrite in one regard or another. Marnie, she's just a bit of a hypocrite in terms to her religion. She kind of says, oh yes, I'm so zealous, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other, and then deep down she's kind of like, I'm a murder a small boy if I have to. I will destroy anyone who gets in my way to me achieving my goals. She's very single-minded like that. Now then, as you heard, my alarm did go off, so I am out of time for this episode. In the next, Marnie will continue exploring Castle Cousland, but until then, please remember to like if you enjoyed, leave a comment below, and if you wanted to subscribe, it would be very much appreciated. I've been Callista. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.